I believe we are live. Yes.
Oh, we are live. Okay. As we play Guess the Song. Hi, good morning, everybody. It is August 5th, the first Wednesday of the month, and we've got Christian back in town. So let's get this show started.
Welcome, everyone, to Coffee and Dulce. As Jenny said, today is August the 5th, and it's so wonderful to have everyone who's joining us on Facebook Live, but also those who join us later on YouTube and on Facebook as well. We are Mama Ruthless today, that came out kind of funny.
Is that our rapper name, Mama Ruthless?
Oh, hey.
I like that.
That's good, Jenny. I can tell this is going to be a zinger show.
Oh, I'm on a roll today.
So everyone knows, or I don't know if you know, but if you've been on the show before, virtually or in person, which we haven't done since March something, we record the promo before the show. So in the promo, it says, "Hey, Stephen, so great we got along, or we agreed a lot today." So we have to agree today, and it's an easy topic. Today's topic is vacation or not vacation. That is the question. So it is a lighthearted topic. As everything is, we'll turn it into political, I'm sure, somehow. So I want to welcome everyone. Oh, speaking of the rapper herself, look who is joining us.
Checking in.
Let's see what kind of music. Oh, there she is. Yeah.
Morning. There she goes.
Mama Ruth, you have to listen to the intro to the show because it's actually kind of funny. So, as we always do on the show, let's go around the Brady Bunch screen, introduce yourself, and introduce your imaginary button. Jenny, do you know where everyone is on the screen? Because I'm looking at Zoom, not Facebook.
Just pick somebody.
Yeah, okay. Let's start with Jenny, Dr. B, Barbara, Stephen, and Mama Ruth. Go ahead.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. I'm Jenny-Jaymes Gunn, and of course, I'm a Charlotte Pride volunteer and coordinator. I'm a board member of the National Organization of Women in Charlotte. And of course, I'm all for gun sense laws, Moms Demand Action, and most importantly, Medicare for all. I could wear a button this big. I do have a mask somewhere. I should have wore it today, but I'll hand it over to Barbara.
Hi, I'm Barb Bacon. I'm a healthcare advocate here in South Charlotte. Two things for me in terms of button. I am totally against gun violence and also a huge advocate for, I call it healthcare for all, because when people ask me to explain Medicare for all, I just don't get into it. But I just had a very good friend lose his job, family, kids, and now he's looking for insurance and he's glad Obamacare is there, but that's still very, very expensive for a family. So healthcare for all, you guys.
Hi, I'm George Bohmfalk. I'm a retired physician. As you can tell by my button and my mask, I'm a Medicare for all advocate. There's a lot of reasons we call it Medicare for all rather than healthcare for all, but that's another subject. And I also support most progressive issues unashamedly, like reducing gun violence and whatever, and all the other good things. So happy to be here.
I'm Stephen DiFiore. I'm a member of the Libertarian Party of North Carolina and Mecklenburg County, and a gubernatorial candidate. I, as a non-progressive, I maybe would disagree with some details of my co-host's stances, but that's no reason not to have a discussion in my mind.
Hey, Mama Ruth, are you there? Mama Ruth?
Love the mask.
Good morning, everyone. I finally got my mask. Thank you to Tara and Miss, I can't remember her. I can't pronounce her name. But anyway.
Dr. Sachs.
Dr. Sachs. Sachs? Whatever.
Sachs.
Thanks. I am so happy to be here. I'm sorry I was late. I thought we had changed the passwords and stuff, so I was like going crazy. But I'm back in. I am happy to join y'all. It's a beautiful day outside. It's very sunny and beautiful. And we're just waiting to hear from for Mr. Cooper this afternoon to see if we can move on to level 3. So I am Ruth Perez. I'm a community advocate. I go for 100% Medicare for all. I do support my beautiful friend Jenny-Jaymes Gunn with all the things that they do at now. the National Women's Association, and I also support what Barbara said with the gun reforms. We definitely need something to be done about gun sense reform here. Next.
Excellent. Baby Trump Pinata is back. He was on a hiatus for 3 weeks while I was on vacation, and we want to welcome him back. He is here wearing his mask. He has his Medicare for All sign, his Trump toilet scrubber, American flag, and Cynthia Wallace for Congress palm cards that he's still passing out. So we can beat Bathroom Dan. We have to have a show about that. That's actually, in case anybody doesn't know. All right. I'm Christian Cano, one of your co-hosts. It's so great to be back in Charlotte, back home. You know, the weather here must have been tropical because all of my tropical plants are doing incredible. Oh, yes, that's right. Sorry, Jenny. Thank you, Jenny.
Thank you, Jenny.
As we always do, all of our neighbors, let's salute to coffee and pan dulce. Salute.
Mazel.
I salute with my always right.
That's right. I do have some Key West coffee mugs that I bought everyone. One day we'll be able to hand them to you. They have been sterilized and all that kind of stuff. And then we also want to thank Manolo's Bakery, our pan dulce sponsor. Manolo's Bakery is immigrant owned. It is on Central Avenue. They have, I just finished my last Manolo's tamale last night. I had a bunch frozen, and now I'm going to have to stock up on them again for Taco Tuesday.
Last night was Taco Tuesday.
Well, I made.
You had tamales on Taco Tuesday? Sacrilege, Christian. Sacrilege.
He had Taco Tuesday tamales, right?
I'm not even Hispanic, and I think that's a terrible thing you just did.
You just traitor.
That's like putting ketchup on spaghetti and calling it sauce.
Oh, who did that?
How do you know Art does that? I'm like, what the heck?
Isn't your partner from Mexico, from Guerrero or somewhere up there? Durango.
Durango, yeah.
Yes.
Uh-oh.
You're excused.
Sometimes I'll just take one little piece of lettuce and put it on my taco just to get at her because she goes, tacos don't have lettuce.
That's true.
They don't.
Our sour cream.
They have cilantro.
They have cilantro and onions.
Okay.
Yeah, she makes a distinction between gringo tacos and real tacos. Tacos auténticos. I'm like, whatever. Not everything gringo is bad. She's like, oh, well, you know. It's like, you're tolerable, Steve. I'm like, okay.
Oh, geez.
There you go. That's almost like an I love you right there.
That's as close as I ever get.
You're an okay gringo. All right. Ooh.
Yeah. Hey, you know, I've been called worse.
Oh, me too.
So what Steven's saying is very true because a lot of families have a lot, like in our family, the big controversy argument is black beans aren't Mexican. And so
they're not.
They're not.
No,
but they are delicious.
But
They're New Mexican.
Yeah.
Hey, they are good. I'm missing my Goya black beans. I'm sorry.
Oh,
But
okay.
I mean,
I'm
Goya's
waiting
pretty
for
good.
a new company to pop out and say this is authentic Goya style.
So are you boycotting?
What happened to
I already
Goya?
did.
Steven, where have you been?
Campaigning, I guess. Did something happen? Was there like a
the CEO
food scare or
of
something?
Goya,
Steve, we'll send you the link so you can read and hear the
kind
show.
of went to the White House and that sort of thing, and so it set off a whole anti-Goya firestorm and all that. So yeah, it was quite the rage for at least a week or so. I mean, like several local LatinX leaders or community advocates were saying,
You know,
we're
Blue
done with
Lion,
Goya, like showing
Blue
them
Lion
throwing stuff
has
in
it
the trash,
closed
showing them
out.
the food bank.
What?
I mean, like,
Oh.
Blue Lion has it closed out. It's like they lower the prices and they're like getting rid of the merchandise.
yeah.
Wait. So it's a bad thing that a company CEO would try to suck up to someone in the government who has the power to destroy their business.
You missed our Goya show.
Yeah, you did.
Okay, I gotcha. I mean,
that was episode 91, I think.
Yeah, you might want to get into it and kind of think about your thoughts and see if we did wrong or good or what.
Yeah.
But today we're on vacations.
But
That's
yeah,
right.
we're on vacation
Let's
today.
circle this back.
We got to find a point of agreement so
Thank you.
Christian, so we don't make a liar out of him.
Thank you, Jenny-Jaymes. I was losing control there. All right, all of you Mega McCains, I'm Whoopi today. All right, so.
I'm gonna pretend I got that reference.
Yeah, well, you got to watch The View. Welcome to Coffee and Pandusa. We're going to talk about vacations because I have returned from a long vacation, and we would have
And survived.
Yes, well,
So far.
I do have my test today for be tested for COVID-19 at 4:15 today. So when we came back, we both decided to go get tested so we can make sure we did everything properly, and also because we want to see our in-laws this weekend, or when we get our results back in, and they are elderly.
How long are you going to have to wait?
Last time it only took me 48 hours to get the results. This time, you're right. I guess it is
Point
delayed.
of service? Okay.
Oh no! Did you hear about the new things that Cooper got into with so many other states that they're gonna be testing and get it right on the spot?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
Well, there's different versions of the test. You know, there's like a rapid response one, and there's all the long ones. But I mean, tell us, Christian, why we're talking about vacationing today. What is bringing this about is.
And why not wait 3 to 5 days after you got back to see if you got any symptoms?
Those are all great questions, and I guess that's what we have Dr. B on, is to tell me what I'm doing right and what I'm maybe. So vacations, I guess we all want to talk about, are we going on vacations? Are we not going on vacation? This vacation, we made the decision to do, A, because we wanted to go somewhere, but B, we wanted to try to do something as safely as possible. And watching the national news about a month ago, we were realizing how Key West was being incredibly strict. They had closed the island down. All of the keys had closed down. And while we were there, they did pass a city law saying anyone who was outside, even if you're at your house, you have to have a mask on, because there were people that were trying to use loopholes, like they were jogging or they were fishing. So everyone has to wear a mask in Key West, regardless. They did say that if you do get fined or ticketed, and if you do have medical excuse, they will remove the fine or ticket. But the great thing is that doesn't. They were smart how they did it. So they aren't like Charlotte, where you walk in Harris Teeter and say, I'm sorry, I have medical condition. And the person says, okay, you have to wear one, then you have to prove yourself after. So that way there aren't people who are doing that just to say you're not the boss of me. So I hope that's answered the question, but let's go around and maybe in 30 seconds or less, tell us, do you feel comfortable going on vacation this summer, or are you going to, or whatever the case may be? Jenny, let's start with you, because I know you have been doing a lot of research as far as, or I hope you have.
Well, yeah, I've done a lot of research, but I'll express my since the question is personal feelings.
Yep.
No, I don't feel comfortable vacationing at this point in time. Mainly because I would have to rely on the hotel or resort system. And I know from working in the resort sales end of it and being familiar with timeshare resorts specifically, I wouldn't want to go through a common lobby. I wouldn't want to go through a lot of the enclosed spaces that you see with resorts and resort cities like Branson, Missouri, for example, that its primary tourism is shows. It's inside, indoor shows. There's very little outdoor activity except for their amusement park and a few outdoor venues. But that's really what's causing a lot of the vacation problems too. From my research, is one of the reasons like Florida, Texas, Arizona, South Carolina, is that they opened up weeks, if not the weekend of Memorial Day weekend, to catch the tourism. And so many of those states said, let's open up all the bars, let's open up all the indoor spaces. They jumped really, really fast in the phase 2 and phase 3 in some instances. And they happen to be some of the most dangerous states, and parts of Southern California, like Orange County, never really was strict. And so now LA is paying the price one county over, so all these places because Orange County also has beaches that people have never been to Southern California, and realize there was a lot of regional places that just didn't really enforce things. And then once those states opened things up, they went crazy. And so when you go to a beach, you usually go to a bar, you usually go to an indoor place to cool off, and therein lies the problem.
Who wants to go next?
I will.
Or
Usually I go to Marco Island in Florida, and I'm not going anywhere near Florida. So it's the last thing on my list. And besides that, I got to pay for my renovation, so I'm staying home this year. It's a good excuse to stay home. I'm done.
I'll go next as the next person in the senior high risk category. And no, I'm not going anywhere either. I'm terrified by this thing. And, you know, it's one thing. I mean, my son is out on the Outer Banks right now. And they just barely escaped the hurricane going through. You know, everything's fine. But they're being very careful about it. But, you know, you can look at all these little details and research and do it county by county and all this kind of stuff, or you can look at the big picture. And the big picture is, you know, this thing's out of control. And I really believe that if, as a country like Taiwan and some other countries did that have more stronger centralized governments, if everybody in the United States would agree, okay, we're going to do a total lockdown for like a month or whatever, we truly could solve this thing. We would kick it into just teeny tiny little areas of activity, and we could really shut it down. So no, I'm not going anywhere, and I'm terrified at the moment about what's going to happen with the schools. Oh my goodness. I really think there's going to be a huge outbreak because not all schools are going to all remote. And so I'm just really afraid. So I personally am not planning on any vacation. My brother died last week, and you know, whatever. He was, you know, 80 years old and he had heart trouble. So it's not a big surprise. But, you know, there's not a consideration of having any kind of family gathering. I mean, because all of us siblings are in that high risk group. And so, no, it's a strange time. And I just think it's a time for, unless you're really doing a careful job and whatever, and you think you got your head around this, not a time for vacations, not a time for going back to in-school education. I'm sorry, it's just a weird year. So.
Okay. Sorry for your loss, Dr. B.
Sorry for your loss, yes.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Grandpa.
I'm sorry about that.
A month ago.
Hey, Stephen, are you going to go on vacation? I know you're campaigning, but
yeah, well, so I haven't been on a proper vacation in several years. So earlier this month, I went to the Libertarian Party convention in Orlando, Florida. And
that's a double whammy.
Yeah, well, and for me, that's kind of like a vacation because, you know, politics and policy making is kind of like my it's my hobby and my passion. So it was great to hang out with libertarians from across the country, do the business of the party. And the convention was held at the center of the Rosin Center Resort.
I know where that's at.
Yes, and we got a great deal because, you know, they're like, we just need to fill up rooms. And I will say this, Rosin Center did, as far as I can tell, probably the best job possible of putting an environment in place with a reasonable degree of safety. Temperature checks at every entrance, at every door. Everyone had to wear a mask in common spaces. People were compliant because, you know, it's private property, and we, you know, as a group, we kind of value that. And it was fine. And I mean, I didn't feel unsafe or uncomfortable being there. Almost no one I was around felt unsafe or uncomfortable. The convention hall was huge, so everyone had the ability to be 6 feet spaced apart, which is, you know, the guideline that they had in that county, which I think is Orange County, Florida. And yeah, no, it was fine. I spoke to a lot of people there, and they said, you know, some of them were a little worried about COVID. Some of them were not worried at all. You know, just wearing their mask as a perfunctory thing. Others were like, no, I'm really taking it seriously, doing the hand sanitization all the time. You know, so it ran the gambit of people who were concerned and not concerned. And of course, as a party, we had a online component to the convention because some people were from states like New York, where they were like travel advisories and restrictions. So, you know, we tried to do our best. But the drive down there and the drive back was fine. But of course, I was around talking to a lot of people, shaking hands, stuff like that. So when we got back, we just kind of hung out at the house for 2 weeks, you know, self-isolating. Which is fine. We have the ability to do that, so we did that. And you know, I haven't had anything beyond normal, you know, stuffy nose because of pollen. And you know, that might be because perhaps back early on in February or May, I got February or March, I got sick with something that was weird, maybe COVID, maybe not. I haven't had the antibody test, but you know, there's a argument to be made for herd immunity. But you know, again, to speak to the concerns of folks like Barbara or George, you don't need to have put people in high risk categories in undue risk. So you know, a lot of us, you know, staycations are fine. And you know, and I'm a big fan of staycations. This was like the one time, like I really only go out of state on vacations when I get to do a politics thing. I'm kind of sick that way.
Well,
let me ask a question, because Steve, that really interests me. Of all groups in the country, I would expect that libertarians would be pushing back, and there would be a certain contingent at your convention here saying, I respect everybody, but still it's my right. I'm a libertarian. Nobody's going to tell me what to do. So I'm impressed and fascinated that it seems that everyone at the convention kind of towed the line. So can you speak to that? I mean, it's
yeah. So it comes down to a really simple principle that libertarians believe in, which is property rights. We believe in property rights and private property and respecting the rights of property owners. And Rosin Center is a private property owner, and they requested us to do that. It's like, well, yeah, if I go into, like, for example, Christian, if I go into your house and you say, Steve, I would really appreciate if you didn't put your feet up on the furniture like you're in your own home. I wouldn't do it. You know, because it's your home and your furniture. I'm not a jerk.
That is really interesting. Dr. B, thank you for catching that, because I caught that also. I was going to make a catty joke, but you beat me to it. And maybe Jenny will say it. I was really impressed when he said a libertarian convention, and they were all wearing masks. And now that he's explaining it, I don't know if anybody wants to speak to this, because I wouldn't want to get too off topic, but doesn't that squash the argument for the "you're not the boss of me" people that are walking into these private businesses like Harris Teeter and saying, you're invading my rights? It's not really about their rights. It seems like it's about just them trying to create it. Because if they were truly
some people will be a jerk and they will use any excuse they want to use to be jerks. And I mean, what can you do about that? I mean, I've heard that there are jerks in the world. I don't really hang out with those people very much. So I can only speak from, you know, tangential experience.
Sure.
Well, about 6,000 of them showed up at the Tulsa rally for Trump. So we definitely know where at least 6,000 of them are. But, you know, and I think it really does come back. It always, for me and everything I've posted about COVID, when it's been about debating the mass, and that it really comes down to intelligence and compassion. Which, you know, really, you got to be smart about it. Just like with the Libertarian Convention, they realize we got to be respectful to the property owner. That's an intelligence thing. That's also a compassion thing, that you don't want to make life
and a politeness thing. Don't forget the politeness thing.
Yeah, and politeness goes with compassion, you know, and so it's really about respecting your neighbor. And so the mass debate, to me, is the bottom line. If you're going to go into a store and throw a fit like many of the you're not the boss of me people have done at friggin', you know, Costco and, you know, all these other places that have like $12 an hour, $8 an hour employees that are going, we just got to do this to keep all of our guests safe. You know, you just do our curbside service. If it's really bothering you that much, we'll bring it out to you, you know, like several of the videos.
I used to work in customer service, and we had to deal with rude people a dime a dozen, and it's just like you can't do anything about it. Some people feel entitled to your time, and that you know their comfort level is privileged over yours, and it's like, all right, well, some people are like that, and what can you do about it? But tolerate it and try not to be around them.
Let me throw you a hypothetical. You couch the convention in terms of it was private property and they had these rules. Assume that your convention were held in some municipal convention complex that made no rules whatsoever. What do you think the party and the delegates would have done about the mask issue, where there was no external issue, no rule imposed on you? What do you think the group would have done?
They probably would have imposed safety rules anyway, because a lot of folks are, you know, in the high risk category, and we want to be provide a comforting and welcoming environment to our delegation. You know, we're not, you know, The LP is a big tent party. So we got a lot of people with a lot of worldviews, a lot of perspectives, a lot of life situations from all across the country in all walks of life. And, when you're a big tent party, even though, our party is numerically small compared to the big two, you have to be as accommodating as you can to as many people as you can. And honestly, taking reasonable measures, wearing a mask, hand sanitizer. I mean, the care package. So every delegate who checks into the hotel to be a delegate, we all got a care package, and it's it's a little bag with all the itinerary and notes, and a face mask and hand sanitizer. LP branded. I can even it's in the other room. I can grab it at some point to show you, but it was a really nice gesture. And a lot of people were like, yeah, I'm gonna wear this one instead of the surgical mask that I brought with me. Or you had guys like me like, oh yeah, North Carolina pride, I'm gonna do that. But
I like that mask.
yeah, it's pretty cool. I like it. I can send you the link for the website that made it to me. Actually, my beautiful partner brought me the mask that they gave out at the convention.
Oh, how nice. Wonderful.
Yeah.
So Dr. B brought up a really good point in comparing schools and vacation spots. And they also have several other parallels. Many of the schools that have opened in the last few weeks in certain states, most of them have gone back and closed. So it's been very common where within the first 24 to 72 hours, they've had outbreaks in many of the schools. And the majority of the states have opted to go ahead and close, except for South Dakota, where they're having Sturgis, I think, this weekend, where they're going to have about 150, 200,000 people there. That should be fabulous. But a lot of the beaches, from my research, like South Beach in Miami, opened and then closed. Several South Carolina beaches opened and then closed, except for Myrtle Beach, which is ground zero for COVID in South Carolina.
Yep.
And many California beaches opened and closed. And 80% of the schools, all the biggest schools in California, are all going to do virtual learning. So there's a trend, and even Texas went into phase 2 and then rolled all that back to go to a phase 1, closing all the bars, theaters, anything that has people there for extended amounts of time and close together. And so it's been a fascinating phenomenon as people have opened and closed and slinked back and forth.
That's interesting information, Jenny, and exactly kind of what you said. You can see that parallel between the areas of our country that people have gone out on vacations and so forth, and I'll talk about this later on, but and maybe even on the next show, Two Queers in a Truck, more detailed. But the whole reason we decided to go to, I was really paranoid about going. First of all, the optics of it, but also just because we have family members that are a high risk and we want to be able to see them eventually. And so, but Key West was so strict, and we bought an RV. We were going to be like basically camping, and all the food that we took we took too much food. You would think we had like 100 people in our family. And I felt very safe and very comfortable. And in the RV campground, the people that ran the campground, they were out all the time with their face coverings, making sure everyone had their face coverings, in a polite way. So I was very impressed. And the people who came, they saw us with face coverings outside watching TV, and they would just it was more like peer. Everyone was doing what everyone else was doing. There was no arguments. The police in Key West all had face coverings.
I was going to jump in and ask you, how did they handle bars and drinking and things like that?
Great question. The bars were closed. If you could not sit in a bar, a place that had like a restaurant, you couldn't sit at the bar. You had to sit at a table and eat food. We didn't go into any place that was closed. We went to one place once a week, an oyster bar that had a great happy hour, half price oysters and all kinds of stuff. And it's open air, a lot of fans. The last time we were there 3 weeks, the last time we were there for happy hour, a young group of college kids or something came in and took their mask off, and one of them was talking really loud, and I was getting really paranoid. So we finished our food and we walked out. But yeah, it was done very well. And I spoke with one of the bartenders there, and I said, "How's it going?" And she said, "Well, this is the new normal." And she said, "You just have," and it almost reminded me of you, Jenny. She said, "You just got to you pivot. You just deal with what you got to do." And the they're called commissioners, the city council members. They had all voted on very strict requirements. They have signs all over Key West saying no masks, no shoes, all that, no service, things like that. And their whole argument was, we're a small island, small hospital, don't put us in danger. And Jenny and I had this conversation. Key West has a lot of, it's been an LGBTQ, very progressive community. A lot of people there survived the AIDS crisis. And we were talking about, I'm curious if that played a role in how strict they were about protecting not only their citizens in the community.
They have a history of dealing with the pandemic right there on that island. And one of the doctors that I used to work with, he had a brother that lived there and he died from HIV, and they were extremely paranoid. I understand. So they understand that environment more than most people do, I think. I'm proud of them.
I think they kept the island shut down for about 60 or 70 days before they opened in June. So they weren't open very long before y'all vacation down there, from what I understand.
And they did open for July 4th, which made me nervous after they came off of their closing the island down, because we planned to go after July 4th. And what they did is they cut Duval Street off. Duval Street, if anybody knows, it's like their Bourbon Street. They no traffic, and they put tables and allowed people to walk up and down to give people space. And they did that to test to see if it worked, or as we say, let's see if you can behave. And if you can't behave, we're going to close it down, because they wanted to know what they're going to do about Fantasy Fest, about lobster season, about the boat races. They have festivals almost every other week. And they said it was successful, but they couldn't ensure that people were doing things. So they canceled Fantasy Fest after that. Almost every festival has been closed. But I have a question for Mama Ruth. And I don't know if you want to answer this, Mama Ruth, because usually in normal, I don't know if there's ever going to be a normal again, but in past times, we would usually see those wonderful pictures of you and your family at a beach or in all the boys. And I know your family, they take like family. The boy, they all go with her on vacation. How is it this year?
We are still debating. It's a real rough decision. Even though we already passed through the COVID, we feel that it's not safe out there yet for us to go. I don't even agree, like Dr. B was talking about the schools. I'm still don't even agree by doing virtual at all. I don't agree at all. Right now we've been thinking about waiting. Maybe we can take our vacations this year, not in the summer, but maybe fall or winter if things changes. We're planning to go up to the mountain or something very more isolated, maybe renting a cabin and being on our own, things like that, because it doesn't seem very good right now. I mean, I miss the beach. I took a trip Sunday just to a small little river in Spartanburg. It was okay. People had their distance, but we only stayed there for about an hour and a half and came back home. I mean, it's like that.
Might I recommend Lake Lure if you're going to go to a vacation spot in the mountains? It's beautiful. It's isolated. It has a wonderful lake so that you can actually get your beach in. The LP of North Carolina actually had a convention at Lake Lure, the Lake Lure Inn, at one point a couple years ago, and it was fantastic. It's a really cool town. It's beautiful mountains. It's terrific. So if you're looking for a mountain spot, I recommend that.
You know what the funny part about it is? That we tried going camping because we love going camping with boys, and everything that's already taken. Like there's no spots available. So I'm okay, that's dangerous.
Yeah, we were very fortunate where we bought our camper trailer early May, right when the big boom, where everyone looked at and said, hey, this is probably one of the safer ways to do something, is to be on your own, not to be using someone else's floor, carpet, and hotel rooms. And I was going to say to Stephen, is one of the things that I'm concerned about, having spent about 30 years in the hotel business, when times get tough and staffs get shorter, cleaning gets less. And even in perfect times, housekeepers in hotel rooms, unless they're unions are very strict as far as their rules. They're allowed 32 minutes a room. in a union property. At a non-union property, you've got 16 rooms to clean. I want them clean. Here's 2 more rooms because someone called in sick today, 18. Some people are cleaning up to 20 rooms. Very rarely are they cleaning as accurate as, which is why when I go to a hotel, even before this, if those remembered, I was in Atlanta when all this closed down, I take with me cleaners, sanitizers, everything that could possibly be touched, because I know hotels. So, but I do that at home as well. So question for Dr.
Hey, I wanted to give a shout out to some of our viewers
Yes.
that commented on our deal. One tier along said, nice hat, Barb, nice mask, George, and welcome back, Cano. We also got a comment from Gina Hernandez, says, hello, friend Ruth, greetings to all. And we had Denise Bocaban, said good Wednesday morning. And then Joe Garcia said, good morning, folks. So that is all of our viewers that made comments on our place.
Oh, hi, Joe. We need Joe to come by. We can swap him for Steve.
Well,
Once in a while.
Joe's my campaign manager, as a matter of
Yeah,
fact.
we need him.
He's fantastic. I'm a big fan of him. He's the chair of the Union County affiliate and the vice chair of the North Carolina party. So he's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And yep, and he's a former New York cop. So don't hold that against him.
Oh, remember he was the bodyguard for the presidential candidate that came to the show.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to
I
mess
thought
with
that name looked familiar.
Jacob, what is it, Burger?
Hornberger.
Yeah, Jacob Hornberger was on our show. So Dr. B, you can tell me now, because I believe me, Terry, Jenny and I had these conversations. I was so nervous about doing something wrong because we have been talking about being responsible and all this kind of stuff. And I joked with Jenny, I said, if I get COVID-19 on this damn trip, Tara's not going to let me forget about this.
Yeah.
And I really, it shows you how influential she is with us. So I try to do everything. We'll find out today when I take the test and we get the results back. I try because I almost wanted to prove that as long as we're responsible and try to do things as safe as can, we don't have to be afraid. Tell me what you think. If you were my physician,
Yeah.
What would you tell
it's
me?
tough. It's tough. I mean, like I say, being in the high risk group and not needing to do anything. I don't have, teenage kids that are going crazy or anything like that. It's kind of easy for me to kind of say, I'm not doing anything. We're just going to sit here and ride this out for the foreseeable future. Like I said, my son's family here decided to take an equally stringent, like you've done, trip to the beach. And so they're being very careful, and God willing, everything's going to be fine. So you kind of got to do what you got to do. Now, if you came down with it, it's like, well, lesson learned. But I mean, I could come down with it tomorrow just from going to the grocery store once a week. So, everybody has to make his own decision. But again, if more people would just make intelligent choices and not go to these massive beach parties and boat parties and crowd out in bars, we'd probably be a long way ahead of this.
Well, you know what? Not only beach parties. I've seen a lot of my friends' daughter, like one of my friends' daughter, they've been joining a lot downtown. For some reason, I'm not sure where exactly in downtown, but they're hosting pool parties. I think.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's overcrowded.
Right.
I mean, I think the beach is a little bit better than going into a pool party, because you can't even turn around because they're bumping into each other.
Right. That's just insane. It's irresponsible, and I don't think any mature, intelligent person can condone that on any level. But that goes on.
Parents, where are the parents? Why are they letting them do this? I don't understand it.
Well, I don't think it's so much a matter of letting them do it. I mean, the police are breaking up these parties and all around the country. It's just that people do it until they get caught. So it's a certain amount of that thumbing your nose, and we're young and invulnerable, and don't tell us what to do kind of thing.
But Dr. B, even though the police are breaking up those groups, we've been asking, I think, for a couple of months already, how they're enforcing it. Are they getting fines? Are we
I don't know.
Citations? We need a police officer to come and kind of explain to us what's going on. Who's enforcing what? Because
I think that's like that.
grocery stores. They have a big sign, you know, like no shirts, no mask, no service. But I've seen people don't care and they just walk into the store with no mask.
Sure.
No one turns around and tells them anything because, you know,
So
I guess they're assuming they're at their rights.
So
Well,
in North
you don't
Carolina-
want you don't want fights to break out in all these stores, and you don't want employees getting beat up or pepper sprayed by some idiot that kind of comes in and kind of says, "This is my right." And so enforcement from a law enforcement standpoint, I think absolutely is like a patchwork quilt. And you might find police doing something or issuing citations, but for the most part, I think it's trying to kind of say, "Come on, guys, you know, you're not following the rules. Let's do it." Because enforcement, I mean, heavens, that's just a Pandora's box of that people kind of hiring fancy lawyers to say, well, it was my right. And, you know, shoot, it's just ridiculous.
What it comes down to is it falls on the responsibility of the management and the owner of the property, how North Carolina created their act. So the governor's decree basically said it's incumbent upon, let's say it's a business like a grocery store, they basically have to call the police, and it's viewed as trespassing. So they are
so that's a practical.
Not really.
They're trespassing if they don't comply.
Aldi posted a sign and said they respect and they'll enforce masks. However, they cannot obligate the customer because taking care of being safe is at your own risk. Like we respect, and I'm like, why would you do that? Why?
Well,
it's an imperfect situation. I mean, it's one of those. There's no perfect solution.
Yeah, well, I can tell you that it did make a huge difference when we got into. As soon as you go into Key West, there are electronic billboard signs that say "mask required," "mask required." So when you first walk in there, your expectations are set what they require. And so I was a little bit more, oh, well, they're pretty serious about this. Whereas Charlotte.
There's an important point why Key West is different than Charlotte, though. For one, that municipality had the power to be able to go against the grain of what Florida's laws are or regulations. And so they actually use code enforcers there. So I researched Key West. Since we were doing the show on vacation, and they actually have people that can go around and write tickets. And so, and then if the people get rowdy with them or get handsy with them, they automatically have the police on walkie-talkies and bring in the police. And Key West is such a small island. Whereas here in Charlotte, they're waiting for indoor spaces to basically narc on their own customers. Which is very imperfect. Whereas the person doing the citations at Key West, because there's no indoor partying or anything like that, they're going to be on the streets not wearing a mask. And so they can actually cite them right on spot. So they're very out in the open. Whereas here in Charlotte, you could be in one of the breweries, because the breweries are open, the restaurants are open with alcohol, and they can pack in the capacity, and the cop can't go in there unless they're called. So it's a huge difference on how big of a mistake North Carolina made on their regulation. They really put all the pressure on the business owner and did not share the responsibility and did not use the code enforcement rules with health and human services. And it was something that I was asking for when they were coming up with this rule.
And you know what?
It would have made more sense.
This is not going to stop at all. Right now, what I've been learning, I just got a message yesterday. You know how North Carolina is more stricter right now with clubs. They went and closed some of the nightclubs and some of the bars. No alcohol after 10 o'clock. People are either doing wine houses or liquor houses in their house and gathering in their groups. Or guess what? They can just travel passing Monroe to Pageland, and they have a big warehouse where they're conducting concerts, Mexican dances. And I'm like, people are not really, I mean, they're just desperate making money. And
it's almost like prohibition doesn't work.
And they don't care because, you know, South Carolina is not strict.
Don't forget, you're supposed to agree, Stephen.
Yes, Steve. And South Carolina doesn't have restrictions. So they can go and organize a concert or whatever down there, and there's no big deal. Down here, okay, fine. No more alcohol after 10. Let's gather at a house. And
There is something, though, I think that Key West, I'm sure this is, I mean, it's a huge tourist, obviously it's a, multi-billion-dollar tourism industry in Key West. One of the things that I spoke with someone there, that the reason they were so strict is because they did not want, they were looking in the future, not only now, but also in the future. They wanted people who were going there to always consider themselves to be on the right side of doing things right. Whereas Orlando has not done things properly. And I believe it's going to hurt them in the future, where people are going to say, let's not go to Orlando, let's go somewhere else. And that was what my argument was with Charlotte. Charlotte has, and we still probably have, the ability of doing things to protect our citizens, but also to protect our future business and corporate travel system. Because I know many of y'all probably know people that are in sales or in banking or whatever, and none of them are going to Florida to take their conferences anymore. They stopped that, I think, 2 years ago because of all the outbreaks of things. And they're doing their sales conferences more north and in other places. And Charlotte has the ability to capture that market and say, listen, this is what we did during COVID-19. We were safe, we did everything. Please bring your corporate travel to us. Go to a Panthers game, go do this. Instead of going to Orlando, bring the business here. And so I don't know if anybody wants to comment. And so I think Key West was, go ahead.
I'm going to jump in because Joe Garcia made two comments. When he said the exact same thing that I said, which is it's incumbent upon the store managers to call the police as an option to enforce the mask rules, which basically means you put the business in the middle of it, saying you have to enforce the ordinance yourself. The second thing is, he says Stephen is absolutely correct. Prohibition does not work, and so he is helping you out. There's an assist from your man there.
There you go.
Very good point. Strict out prohibition and self-policing is not fair to the businesses, because if you had somebody coming in with a code enforcement, whether it's the fire inspector or the health inspector or whatever, with an official deal on, says you get a ticket, you get a ticket, you get a ticket, like Key West and Oprah does, it would be great. But when you say, okay, Mr. Store Manager, Mr. Cashier, you're putting those employees, most likely, because the owner's probably not going to be there. Yeah. So you're putting employees, people that don't make a lot of money, especially in the service industry, on the front line, just like you would do in a hotel. I mean, the front desk clerk usually isn't the owner of the hotel.
Exactly.
I can speak from experience on this, actually. So one of the careers I've had in the past is security, corporate security. And so I was charged with enforcing the property rules of the property that I was, working to secure, right? And sometimes you have to go up to customers and you have to say, you have to lower your decibel level. You have to be more quiet. Or, hey, you're causing a ruckus. We're going to have to ask you to leave for a period of time, or what have you. I mean, there are occasions when people act in an uncivil manner, and you got to do what you got to do to, I guess, make sure that the rest of the people, employees, customers alike, are comfortable. And that's just what you have to do. It's, we don't necessarily, when I was working security, you never wanted to call, like, say, if I was working at the mall, you never wanted to call the mall security or the police officers who were, walking the beat at the mall. You wanted to handle everything in-house, because then you could do it the way you wanted to and the best way you saw fit. Because, as for example, when I was working at a jewelry store, I know what we need more than the cop that just walks in, or the security guard from the mall that just walks in, right? So I'm at the most local level, and it's like, okay, you might lose a sale, whatever, but how many other sales might you lose if this person is causing other people to feel uncomfortable? So I mean, there is a responsibility there that a lot of business owners really take seriously. Now, some people don't, because not everyone thinks, not everyone is a responsible person, but folks who are usually business owners, especially small business proprietors, they're the kind of people, because you can be a business owner. It takes a lot of work and discipline to be a business owner. You're gonna do the responsible thing, because people won't come to your place of business if you're acting a fool. So you're gonna do what you need to do. And as customers, we have the choice to patronize businesses that do things the way we think they should, or not patronize businesses that do things we think are irresponsible. You know, and that's exactly, in my opinion, how things should go about.
No, I agree with you. And Jenny, you hit the nail right on the head as far as putting the responsibility on who should be responsible for that. I agree with you. Management in these businesses, whether it's Lowe's or Harris Teeter or Costco or anyone, they should be leading the effort. They should be at the front door. In the hotel business, there's a program called the Lobby Lizard program, and you may not even be aware of it. Omni Hotel started it. And what they do is they position management people, salaried management people. It's also in sales or from all levels. You have to stand certain areas of a lobby or where traffic is, if it's a convention property, to be seen. It's for security reasons. It's also to greet guests, to say hello. And many people have Lobby Lizard job. They're like for the top of every hour, management have to leave their office and go stand around a hotel and greet people and so forth. And I agree with you that philosophy should be, let's say at Harris Teeter, that the responsibility shouldn't be on that hourly employee. It should be on the store manager who's standing up front saying, thank you for wearing a mask. Please put your mask on. Thank you for wearing a mask. Instead of leaving that really important job to the hourly person. I know Costco, they have people that stand up there. When I was in Key West, I believe it was the managers at the Publix were the ones who were standing up front when you walked in, or they were greeters, I guess. So I don't know. We're kind of running out of time. Go ahead.
One of the weird things, though, is how we've not relied on the medical industry. That when you go into clinics now, and Dr. B can probably talk to this too, is that you can't just waltz into a clinic like maybe you used to. They have like glass shields up, and this was way before COVID. Is the flow of a medical clinic? It's very strict, even if it's a cosmetic surgeon or whatever. You just don't. It's very controlled environment. Then the walk-in clinics are even more strict on things because of strep and flu and other contagions. And I was so surprised how many states and municipalities did not sit down with medical and public health professionals and really structure something, and then also study the Asian countries that have been going through pandemics for 10 years and how they did things. So, like H1N1 and SARS and all that, like, we don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Girl, you stole my line.
Yeah, I just robbed your line. You were on vacation.
Jenny, there are a bunch of us in the field have been kind of saying, yeah, look to these other countries. But then what you hear then is America first, and we don't need to take lessons from anybody else. And we're smarter, and we're not going to do all this kind of, we don't want centralized planning and direction because it all ought to begin on the primary basic level. Well, this is what you get, folks. And there's a case to be made.
We should not reinvent the wheel when it's already been done for years in other places. I just don't understand it.
Well, I understand it, and it's unfortunate.
Background, we never reinvented the wheel. I've got 4 friends still in the research side of the business, and they are so excited. They talk about the working with other companies now that was so taboo because, everything is such a secret, and it's like Fort Knox in some research departments, and that it's so exciting. And you can hear it in their voice or see it on their faces in a Zoom call, and they're just, it's energized them even more, which makes me happier and more positive about the effort because they have the ability to share because they all have one common goal. And I find that so refreshing after all the years of secrecy and security, and you can't talk about it, and don't you dare have a drink with one of them because loose lips sink ships, it's like, what? But it's changed a whole lot of things.
That has been our rolling theme on this show. This is our 94th show. And since we first started, we have periodically weaved in and out. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. We talk about it with CMS. Why is CMS not just seeing what the other school districts are doing? We talk about this with politicians. why do politicians just look at what other politicians are doing? And so we continue to, and we're like a banking mega center here in Charlotte and financial center. We're diversifying here, but why don't our elected public service just call Bank of America and Wells Fargo and say, what are y'all doing in your, are you requiring your employees to come to the office? Not until October. Well, then maybe we shouldn't have kids come to school if it's that important for the banking industry here. And then but the kids can, that's okay. So anyway, I went on the ramp.
And I think you can look at, Key West and Charlotte and compare the two in the fact that one municipality or one county or whatever Key West is compared to, a top 20 city like Charlotte in population, and how smart Key West was and how lack of leadership that we got from our county and city leaders, and they were asleep at the wheel. I think Governor Cooper did the best he could, considering that he was one of the states that had armed protesters showing up in Raleigh, which never is very unsettling. And it came from a very specific group of Trumpsters. I mean, you looked at the crowd and they were all carrying Trump signs, armed to the teeth, and screaming. And you're like, even if it's only 1,000 people, you must
have been looking at a different armed protest than I saw. And actually, technically, according to North Carolina state law, you can only exercise one of your rights at a time, either the First Amendment right or the Second Amendment right, but not at the same time.
Really?
So they technically weren't protesters.
So here's my question. Yeah. So here's my question to Stephen, not to put you on the spot in 30 seconds, because Jenny wants to ask this question, but she'll probably ask it to the next show. When all of the "you're not the boss of me" people were doing what they were doing and continue, they were burning their masks, they were at the state capitol. We were talking about, those aren't real libertarians. Those are more like Trump supporters. Why didn't the Libertarian Party, because I don't know what the answer is, but why didn't the Libertarian Party make a statement, say, they don't represent us? We follow property rights, like kind of what you talked about today, because it gave the impression to those of us who know the Libertarian Party, because we know y'all, and Jeff has educated us a lot, and you, they gave us that, that's just the tin hat foil Libertarian Party people. So they kind of gave a bad image to your party.
Well, no. So those people didn't, right? I would say it's the media mischaracterization. So, for example, there was a Second Amendment rally in Virginia, I think Richmond. Gavin Newsom, I think that's the governor of Virginia.
No, Northam.
Gavin Newsom's the governor of California. That's right. So Northam passed some legislation that a lot of the Second Amendment advocacy folks in Virginia were upset about, and so they had a peaceful armed protest in the capital of Virginia, because in Virginia you can exercise all of your rights at the same time if you want. Now the thing is about that is that was basically Second Amendment advocacy group. So you had all kinds of people, as a big Venn diagram of folks. And that was the one issue they were there for. No one was talking about other issues. And so you had some Republicans there, you had some pro Second Amendment Democrats there, you had some libertarians there, you had independents, you had all kinds of groups, and they all kind of came together. And they said, this is our one issue. We're gonna march on this one issue and express ourselves in protest. And there you go. So what the media does is you don't go to the reasonable person. You find the craziest guy you can and you interview him, because that makes for better TV.
Of course it does.
And that's exactly what you do. And then that goes up on like mainstream media, and then that's all normal people see, and they get they get a misperception of what actually happened. For example, when I did the George Floyd Justice Walk, that was an awesome protest. People just walking peaceably. There's like one guy acting foolish. It's like, okay, but if I'm a media reporter, I'm going to go to that one guy acting foolish, because that's going to make some good TV. And then everyone watching at home who wasn't there with me, it's going to say, oh, those people are ridiculous. Well, that's just not the case.
Well, okay. You didn't answer my question.
I can disagree.
Well, so why would a political party
Yeah,
make
go ahead.
a statement about
Oh, okay.
individuals on an advocacy group, right?
Oh, okay, I see
So-
what you mean.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
a
okay.
political party, well, we'll talk about policy. Oh,
Yeah.
like for the national party. Oh, Congress did this and we don't like that.
Yeah.
Or the state party. The General
Mhm.
Assembly did this and we don't like that.
Mhm.
Or
Yeah.
oh, yeah, at the local level, oh, City Council did this and we actually think that's the right way to go. You know,
Okay.
that's what a political party really should do. But
Okay.
a bunch of individuals making
Yeah.
like that's not for a political. In my opinion, that's not
Yeah.
for a political party to make a statement of any party.
Okay.
Personally.
Well, okay. Jenny, you want to say something real quickly before we start wrapping up?
Well, I mean, for one thing, and Chris, we got way off the topic.
Yeah, sorry.
But
Yeah, sorry
there
about that.
are people in Raleigh, because I've got a friend that lives in Raleigh, and they have pictures of armed people at the George Floyd protests and at the "You're Not the Boss of Me" reopen protest. There were armed people, and it was not as dramatic as Michigan, but there was people carrying sidearms.
Yeah, and that's perfectly legal in North Carolina.
It might be illegal, but they still did it.
No, it's perfectly legal in North Carolina to go about carrying openly in public. North
Right.
Carolina is an open carry state.
But they were protesting too. So they were at the protests. Just for clarification, they carried a firearm and they came to the protests.
So you can be in the same geographic area as someone else doing something else, and that's not a crime.
Okay.
Well, yeah, but they were holding like
But have y'all thought about that brings intimidation to other groups?
Yeah.
How
Well,
so? Cops carry guns.
And that's why people start running away.
so, hey,
depending on who you are, is
yeah.
We need this topic to be extended, hopefully.
Yeah, okay.
even with my white privilege, I'm not nearly as scared of a cop as somebody of color that maybe doesn't have as good of an experience with law enforcement. And,
So-
but
I don't know,
parents
the
didn't have
No,
Huey
that
P.
makes-
Gun Club
with me.
folks in
No.
Georgia, they didn't have any problems with the cops.
I have
And they were
I
all
have a
people who don't
question.
have to worry about sunburn.
I have a concern or a question. If it's North Carolina is an open carry state, why is it that cops decides to kill people thinking they're carrying a gun and without knowing anything yet?
Y'all are trying to get me to-
That's a very good question. You're right. You know, there's the excuse
I mean, I could carry my
people
cell
have.
phone,
Yeah. Mhm.
pull it out of my pocket, and they think it's a gun, and they decide
Yeah.
to shoot.
Well,
Yeah, no, that's a very good question. It's like the excuse of, oh, he had a gun is a good reason for him to
We
get
need,
shot.
we need to
In my
extend it
opinion,
and-
is not a
and
good
do
reason.
We need to do a special show, and we need a police officer to be on our show
I
to
agree.
Yes.
kind of tell us what's going on that.
or maybe have Joe, a former police officer.
And I have my son,
Joe Garcia.
and I have my
Joe.
son. Yeah, Joe. And then I have my son that carries a gun. He has all his permits and everything,
Okay.
and he decides to go take his gun with him and kind of bring it back. And I'm always like scared. And he's like, "Mom, it's okay. You know, this is just a protection." And I'm like, "That ain't no protection."
Yeah.
Joe Garcia has been very active on our chat today.
Uh-huh.
And he actually posted about the firearm and the First and Second Amendment bill. He says it's unconstitutional that you should be able to do both at the same time. That you
Yeah, I would
shouldn't be
agree
limited
with
on-
that.
Well,
You do agree or you don't agree?
Yeah.
No, I do agree. You should be able to exercise all of your rights at the same time, all the time,
Yeah.
no matter what.
Well, that's
Rights are
fair.
non-negotiable as far as
okay.
I'm concerned.
I'm going to have to exercise my rights as a Zoom leader by muting everyone.
Yes, sir.
All right, it's 11:08. I gotta
Yes,
go. See you.
I know.
Hi, Ruth.
So Mama Ruth, thank you everyone for joining us. I changed my background. These are the two iguanas that I saw every day in Key West.
Aw.
They're great iguanas. And I do want to say, as we wrap up here, because we weren't supposed to talk about politics, we were just supposed to talk about vacations, but we snuck it in.
Everything is politics.
Exactly. Who said that? Socrates? Plato?
Yes.
One of the Socrates, one of
I
the
think it
Greek
was Breitbart.
persons.
Or Willie Nelson, one of the other.
Willie
Oh yeah,
Nelson.
maybe him.
So we're going to go around. Tell us where you're going to be. And thank you once again. We have not finished the topics for the rest of August, so we'll be coming up with whatever the next show is, the topic. So we'll be, I can't tell you what we're talking about next week because I don't know yet. But I do want to thank everyone for joining us. I just want to mention two things. There was a wonderful victory last night in Ferguson, Missouri, St. Louis, Missouri. A congressperson him and his father had held that seat for 50-something years, I believe, which is cronyism in the first place. That person was defeated by Cori Bush, a very progressive individual. She defeated him, so she will be a new congressperson, a Black single woman, working class person. She will be a congressperson representing Ferguson, Missouri, St. Louis area. She won her primary last night. She upset the incumbent whose family had control. And so that was a wonderful victory. Another individual in Michigan, she won as well. So all these people who have tried to categorize the squad, I don't know if you guys know who I'm talking about, they're winning. And I'm so happy that these women elected, these people are more diversity is coming to the table. So with that said, let's go around the screen. It looks like we've got Baby Trump Pinata, Jenny, Stephen, Dr. B, and tell us where you're going to be, and then Barbara.
Well, I'm not going very far.
Oh, that's right.
coming up, 2 queers in a truck, and we'll be throwing some shade and talking some smack, and I'll probably I'm gonna say a funny story about Christian and our off-camera chat about his trip down there, and it's pretty funny. It's gonna embarrass him a little bit, but it's not too embarrassing. It's not like naked photos or anything like that.
So you're saying I should hit record?
Yeah.
Does it involve an iguana?
It is going to be funny, so stay tuned. It was a hilarious thing, and it made me just shake my head and go, "Oh my gosh, Christian!"
Oops, here we go. Can't wait to hear about it.
Yeah, I guess I'm next, huh? So this weekend I'll be participating in the Let Her Speak protest. It's a convoy style protest where we'll all be in our cars, social distancing, because we want to be respectful of people's comfort level and safety. And we're going to be protesting the Commission on Presidential Debates and how they exclude third-party candidates.
Oh.
Good. Well, I'm going to be sitting right here at home since the country is still on fire and advocating for Medicare for all.
All right.
And I'm going to actually be attending a couple of Zoom meetings over the weekend. I've been asked to help with the senior community in my area, making sure that they know how to absentee vote in November.
Well, I will, thank you, everyone. I will be here waiting for my test results, and then you'll find out next Wednesday what it is, whether I'm with child or not. I forgot what test I'm taking. It's one of those tests. So yeah, my zingers aren't landing today. So hopefully they'll do better the next show. Thank you everyone for joining us. Please make sure you mask up. It's not about you, it's about protecting others. And so thank you so much. We will be back next week, hopefully with everyone here, and we'll be talking about something I'm sure COVID-19 related. Hopefully we'll know whether we're going into phase 3. So I don't know if anybody knows that, or
That's today.
Okay.
We're going to find out.
Well, that's wonderful information, and I want to do a personal shout out to Jenny-Jaymes for taking care of our plants when we were gone. They look beautiful. She did an incredible job. My neighbor who has a lawn landscape company, they were cutting our grass, and we bought one of the famous key lime pies, and unfortunately we ate the pie coming back. So
why is that unfortunate?
Well,
That's part for the neighbor.
yes. So, but the reason we did was because we found out that she had to go to an emergency trip to Florida. A family member is sick, and we didn't want the pie to be wasted. So,
good cover story. That's a very good cover. I can tell you're a politician, Christian.
In your house, you have this thing that they invented. It's called a freezer. Just so you know.
Jenny, you're ruining it. You're ruining it. Stop. This is still on air.
Right. So
there goes that bus right over.
If you're on Zoom, please stay on because I want to thank you personally. Otherwise, everyone who's watching us on Facebook and YouTube, thank you very much. We'll see you next week.
Don't be a fool. Wrap your face.
Pies need to be eaten fresh.
Exactly. That